What's up, guys? Do you have a busted or leaky radiator on your Polaris General? Well, SuperATV's got the fix with our heavy-duty radiator, and today we're going to show you how to get it installed. First thing we're going to do is go ahead and remove our hood. We'll just go ahead and set it aside. Then there's going to be two T40s. Go ahead and remove them. And we're going to go through and all of the push pins securing the plastic here, the inner cover to the fenders. We'll want to go ahead and remove all of those. We'll want to go ahead and remove these in the front as well. That way we can pull our fenders out and away from the machine. Then we're going to come right here and remove our grill. Will just be two push tabs. You just push down on them and pull the grill out. And there's going to be a push pin here as well as right here. We'll go ahead and remove those as well. Then our fenders will kind of pick up and out. Once we pick up on the fenders, there'll be another push pin right here. Just go ahead and get it out. It'll be like that on both sides. Then we'll go ahead and we're going to loosen these clamps right here. Then remove the push pin up front underneath your wiring. And then we're going to come up here and disconnect all of our wires on the pulse bar. You'll have two grounds and two hots. These wires right here will be our ground wires. Once you remove your nuts, just go ahead and thread them right back on there. We'll come down here. Now this wire right here is hot right now. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and tape it up. That way we know we're not gonna short anything out. Way we know we're not going to get shocked. And we're going to come right here and remove this plug as well. It's our accessory plug. And then we'll start feeding these wires down through the grommets. Now with these tubes, sometimes you got to kind of get a screwdriver in here and pry on them a little bit as you raise them up, so they'll make it past the actual intake. And come over here. Kind of wiggle those up. And now you have all your harness for your coolant line. Slide all that back and kind of out of the way. Then right here you're going to have a 10 millimeter on this bracket. You'll go ahead and remove that. For both sides. And then we'll come right here and we'll go ahead and disconnect both of our plugs here where they're attached into the bracket. Then once you have your wiring removed from your bracket, you'll just go ahead and remove both the brackets. And we're going to come here to our upper radiator hose. And you can use a pair of pliers or whatever you want to use here. We just have one of our tools that we use for our cab heaters. And we're going to crimp this hose off. That way we don't lose as much coolant. And we're going to do that for the lower radiator hose as well. And we'll come up here. There's going to be a wiring harness coming off of the fan shroud. It'll be the fan plug. You want to reach in here and then just disconnect that. Then we'll get a pair of pliers and we'll remove our hose clamps and remove the radiator. Alright, so we got our hose clamp pulled down. Now we should just be able to get a hold of the radiator hose and slide it off. I'm going to go ahead and spray a little bit of lubrication on it. Now remember, this is going to make a mess, so you want to get a drain pan down there or something to help catch it. And we're going to come right here to where our overflow jug hooks up. And pull it off. It'll make a little bit of a mess as well. But a lot of times you can just take it and run the hose into one of where these push pins would go. Just kind of slide in there, or anywhere that you can get it to where it's sticking up, it doesn't matter. You just don't want it to be sticking down because it's going to make a mess. Then we'll slide over here to our lower radiator hose. So once we have it all unhooked and everything, we're just going to pick up on it. Make sure that there's no more wiring attached, and if you look over here on this side, you're going to have a vent for your diff. You just reach down through here, disconnect these clips for your vent line for your diff, and once that's loose, you can just pull your radiator straight up out of here, and I like to lay it back on its back. And then we're just going to go through, dump all our coolant out of our radiator, and start swapping our fan shroud and fan over to our new radiator. So if you have a factory winch installed, your factory solenoid mount's going to be right here. You're going to see that it has a screw running through here. We're going to have to come in here and remove that screw. That way we can flip our solenoid bracket. Then obviously if you don't have a factory winch, you don't have to worry about this part. Once you have your screw removed, just grab a hold of this mount, rotate it straight up like that, and go ahead and reinstall your screw. So now we're going to grab our lower bracket as well as our hardware. Just have 2 nuts, 2 washers. We're going to slide this bracket down right into the factory holes where the radiator used to mount. Once we have it slid down in there, the studs will be protruding out the bottom. We'll slide a washer on and then a nut. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and snug the hardware on this, but we're not going to fully tighten it because obviously we have just a little bit of room of where we can rotate this and move it around. So the next thing we're going to do, we're going to come over here to the driver's side on our factory shroud. And you're going to see there's this little piece of plastic right here that's kind of protruding down. Well, that's going to get hung up on our radiator. So we need to cut this out. You take a utility blade, slide it right into the corner. If you just follow the way that the rest of the shroud goes, if you just kind of follow that line, you'll cut it right out, and then it'll just be squared off just like that. So nice and quick and easy. Yours should look just like this, and you may have to trim a little bit more off as you go, but as long as you get it close, you should be good to go. So now we have both of our radiators sat right here next to each other. We have them oriented exactly the same. We're going to go ahead and remove our fan off our OEM radiator. And slide it right on to the new SuperATV radiator. Let's get all your holes lined up. Just want to go through and make sure you get them all nice and tight. And then we're ready to slide this one in and get it installed. Just got to get down here. Make sure that we're lined up on both sides. Then we'll just have to make sure, we got everything in there correctly. Then we're going to grab our upper mounts and see where they're laying out at. So those are lining up good. Make sure that you have your harness flipped up on top. We can go ahead and start hooking everything back up. I'm going to go ahead and get my diff vent tube hooked back in. We can plug our fan back in here. We can grab our hardware our 10mm hardware that secures those down. We'll get these all fastened back down here. I'm just gonna get all my hardware started for just right now. We'll have to come back through and fully tighten everything. We can get this upper radiator hose slid on. And we'll go ahead and get our pliers here. Make sure that we get our hose clamped back on nice and tight. And make sure that you put your clamp in the same position that it was in previously on the factory radiator. We'll do the same thing for our lower radiator hose. Again, make sure that we got it clamped nice and tight. We don't want any leaks. Make sure you're behind the barb. So that looks nice and secure there. Come back in, just double check. Everything's laying nicely and properly. And these harnesses here that previously had the hole, you could drill a hole for them, or you could just zip tie the harnesses back to your upper mounts. Either way, it's going to work perfectly fine. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and grab our liner. And we're going to get it slid back into position. I'm going to go ahead and grab my wires and feed them up through here as well as on the other side. Like that, and then we'll just kind of flip this up. We'll grab our winch wires. They'll run right up through here as well. And go ahead and grab our surge hose here. As you can see, it's got that factory routing position. You want to follow that, but also you want to make sure that you get it slid back on to the nipple on the actual radiator. We'll just grab a hold of our fenders here and just get our liner fed back underneath of it. Get everything kind of flipped back to where it should be. So now you're going to see one issue. Right here, where your vent hose is coming off the top of your radiator, you're going to see it's making contact right there. So what we need to do is mark that area with a paint marker, and then we're just going to take a Dremel and Dremel a little section out. We'll take our Dremel, get it ready to go, and we'll just kind of pick up on this and just kind of hold it out of the way for just a second. Reach down through here at the Dremel. So now we're just going to give everything just a look over, just make sure we don't have any hoses crimped, anything is in the wrong position. We'll slide up through the bottom here and just take a look. Everything looks good. Everything feels good. This isn't in a bind anywhere. All of our holes are lined up, so that means nothing's pinched. We got all our plugs, all our wirings up. Oh, here's one thing you gotta worry about: your fascia, or your fenders. You gotta make sure that groove goes back down in there. I'm gonna go ahead and start putting all of my factory hardware back in. Make sure that we get these hold downs screwed down. I'm gonna go ahead and fully tighten them. Make sure everything lines up and get all our push pins back in. And we're just going to go back through hook up all our wiring. Just like that, and then make sure you get your plug plugged back in. That slides in right between them. That plug right there. So now all of our harnesses and everything are ran just like they were from the factory. All of our push pins are back in, so now the last thing to do is to fill up the radiator. Just gonna go ahead and fill our radiator up. So once we have it filled up, just like that, we'll hop in it. We're gonna put the cap back. We're gonna put the cap on, then we're gonna hop in it, fire it up, let it run. Let it circulate what it's gonna circulate at first. And that way we can check for leaks, things of that nature as well. And since we know we really didn't lose any from our lines, we can go ahead and show you one of the tricks that we use. We usually take our pliers here. This is just something that comes with our cab heater kits. And we'll come over here on the driver's side, on the inlet side of the radiator. We're gonna cap it off. We're utilizing a lift, but obviously you could do this with a jack. We like to get the front of the tires on our lift here. Make sure our machine's in park. We'll start raising the machine up a little bit. Then once we have it up, just to make sure that we're not gonna have any issues or this thing's gonna fall off or anything of that nature, I like to take a strap, wrap it around our lift, and then just tie in anywhere that you can. That way we know it's not gonna roll off our lift, and we'll rev it up to 3,000 RPMs until our fan kicks on. So you're gonna wanna do that a couple times. You're gonna wanna make sure that you got this hose crimped off, let it heat up, and then let it heat soak, pop the cap, get the front end up in the air, because all of the air is gonna wanna travel upwards. So if you make the radiator cap the highest point, all your air is gonna travel up there. Once you've done that a couple times, if you still have air in your system, you can go back to the motor and you can find the bleeder screw on the motor, and that'll release all the air from the motor as well. Then once you have that, you should be good to go, as long as your machine's not overheating, obviously. Go through and make sure it's topped off with coolant, double check all your hardware, make sure everything's tied up out of the way. And that's how super easy it is. Install SuperATV's heavy-duty radiator on this Polaris General XP1000. For more information on this radiator or any of SuperATV's great products, feel free to give us a call at 855-743-3427 or check us out online at superatv.com. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.